getting a job is very different from doing the job. I think the hard choice may help, in terms of creating an impression in a casting director or making your read memorable. But very often when you're doing the job, that's not what's required. What's required is a sense of being a real person, and not being a scene-stealing person, not being a scenery-chewing person, but a person, and sometimes that requires very, very non-flashy choices.
You're listening to Inside Acting, a podcast dedicated to demystifying the inner and outer game of success in the entertainment industry. I'm Trevor Elgott.
And I'm AJ Meyer, and coming up in episode 245, Trev sits down for part one of his chat with actor Chin Han. You probably are going to instantly recognize this guy. You've seen him in the new Independence Day film, The Dark Knight, Contagion, recurring on the TV show Fringe, many, many more projects. In part one, Trev and Chin Han discuss his very unlikely and synchronous journey from Singaporean economics student to regional theater and TV stardom, and then on to regularly working Hollywood actor with some of the industry's biggest names. What a cool journey. Trev and Chin Han discuss fear, self-doubt, trusting that he was enough. It all plays a role, because it's all part of the process. That and so much more coming up in episode 245, so stick around.
Support for this episode of Inside Acting comes from Rehearsal Pro, the next version of Rehearsal, the essential app for actors. And yes, indeed, it is now available in the iTunes App Store for your iOS device. Learn your lines, get off book for your auditions quickly and reliably, explore your character, make stronger choices, and do a whole lot more. They're adding new features almost by the week. Go to rehearsal.pro/IAP right now to learn all about the great new features in this newest version of Rehearsal, the groundbreaking app designed by actors for actors. That is, again, rehearsal.pro/IAP.
Yo, Trevinator, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, man.
We do. You've got some pretty good news. Before we get to that, we have just a couple kind of fun announcements. But I am so excited to talk about your good news. So first off, for our members, this is pretty cool. We've been teasing this for a while. It's been a long time coming, but the guys over at Inner Image Media, you may remember or recognize the names Miguel Amodio and Michael Lang. Both of them have been guests on the podcast before. And they run a great production company called Inner Image Media. An arm of that is called Rapid Reels. They do some of the best work in town, creating reels and scenes and short films for actors. And they have started rolling out exclusive content for our membership. This is stuff they're putting together just for us, just for our members. And the first video right now, as of this recording, the first video, there may be another one by the time you hear this. First video is actually live in the membership. It's a really beautifully produced 25-minute interview with a guy named Tyler David Gilbert. He is their sort of in-house sound technician, and he talks a lot about how essential sound is in productions and just a lot of sort of like behind-the-scenes knowledge that I think it's good for all actors to just have in their back pocket so they can be on a film set and work with the crew and the technology with a little bit more authority. And if you're interested in creating your own work, this is must-know stuff so you can, do it well, do it smartly. So check it out in the membership, and lots more coming from these guys. So excited to be partnering with them and offering this kick-ass exclusive content for our members. So that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I want to toss the ball to you, AJ, real fast.
Yeah. Kevin Johnson, huge shout out to him. He's a big supporter of the podcast, and he reached out on Facebook to say that he booked a new series on Netflix.
Yes.
Very, very cool. So congratulations, Kevin. And then Trev, you want to do a quick plug for your upcoming VO?
I sure
VO to
do.
Go-Go class?
I sure do, man. You know, the more I teach these classes, the more I realize how they're just so well done. I mean, yes, I'm biased. And yes, I teach these classes, so I've got like this could be construed as a very sort of self-interested comment, but it's some of the best training out there. And David is, as I said, is redoing the entire year-long curriculum, module by module, month by month. And the new content is just so good. And as I've been teaching it and going through it and applying some of the things that I'm learning, I'm like, oh my God, anybody could create their own, at-home Thrival job doing voiceover work. Everything from audiobooks to doing, one-off freelance stuff on the various casting websites to creating effective profiles. I mean, if you're looking to create a little supplementary income for yourself, doing acting work from your home in front of your computer with a microphone, using your voice, using your skills, this is like must-have training. So I'm really stoked to be doing it and to be teaching the next class on Sunday, August 28th at 5 p.m. We're going to cover how to voice specialty narration. That's like, legal and technical and medical jargon, stuff like that. How to market effectively in voiceover, some really fun marketing tips and tricks and tactics and studies and things like that. And then lastly, one of my favorite classes ever, creating your own voiceover content. It has never been easier, and you don't need permission from anybody to get out there and start doing stuff. We talk about everything from piggybacking on existing productions to creating and marketing your own stuff, everything from setting up the payment infrastructure. It's awesome stuff. I'm really excited and honored to be teaching it Sunday, August 28th, 5 p.m. Go to votogogo.com/Hollywood to learn more and sign up. Hope to see you there.
Dope. I'm excited. I will definitely be attending one of those someday soon.
Great. Oh, that'd be so cool. That'd be so cool to have you in class, man. All right.
Happy to be there.
So listen, without further ado, share with our listeners this fucking awesome news.
I like you. We have a guest that's going to be on the show today. You're like, without further ado, AJ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's big, and a lot of people have already seen this on social media because I did post it, and I got a lot of comments and congratulations from listeners on Twitter and Facebook.
Dude, last time I checked, you had like 370 likes on this status update on Facebook.
Yeah,
370.
Done blowed up. Where are we at right now? 502 likes.
God damn, brother.
112 loves.
Well, nobody can say that you don't have fans.
So I booked my first ever guest star role on a network television show.
Yeah, you did.
So you can insert the cheers sound effects at this point of the podcast.
And this is the one that you talked about last week. This is the meeting for NCIS LA.
It is, yes. It's so funny. I talked about it last week, and then here we are, and I booked it. So that's the way it should always go. That's the way, we should always be like talking about an audition or meeting one week and a booking the next. Yeah, I do have another guest star audition today after we're done. So yeah,
when it rains, it pours, baby.
I know, embarrassment of riches. And there's another really cool story that I'm going to wait and tell it later because I'm not sure what to make of it right now. But because it kind of seems too good to be true. But I implicitly trust the person who emailed me about it, so I'm really excited to talk about it.
Okay.
Here, so. But I just. Speaking of, when it rains, it pours, like work begets work, man. I hadn't been on stage since I left New York until I did this thing with the Jewish Women's Theater. And all of a sudden, it's like one thing after another, and it's not like it has to do with that production. It's not like this job came directly from that job, but there's something to be said for just energetically being in the work and telling the universe I'm working and I'm ready for more work. And, I just applied for full time at one of my Thrival jobs, and now I have to give away like 6 shifts so I can be on set. Like, that's an awesome problem to have, but it's so funny because I'm like focused really, really hard on creating abundance and getting to a place where I really like that thing that just, I guess, flew into my head the other week when I said, it's hard to swim when you think you're drowning or whatever. That just came to me. I don't know if I need to give credit to somebody else. That might be somebody else's quote, but it has really stuck with me. And so even if I feel like a lot of pressure or whatever, I'm really focused on like, okay, if I think to myself, I believe that I'm in a place of scarcity or that I'm drowning right now, I'm not going to be able to thrive. So I get to like knock that crap off, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm so grateful. I'm just like, I've been such gratitude, just thanking family and friends and you, Trevor. Like, I posted that Facebook post, and I definitely wanted to include you because, there are people who watch day after day, week after week, while we essentially gamble, which is a word I got from Jasmine. It kind of is. It's like gambling. Like, I'm not saying I'm addicted to it, although, I don't really want to do anything else but this, right? But, there's no way of knowing if the next job is going to be the one you book. And yet, it takes time, it takes money, it takes energy. You have to, sometimes call out, sick from work to go to a meeting. You spend money on headshots and resumes and all these things. And there's no way it's going to take so long for the ROI to match the I.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to take forever. Like, this job, first of all, I'm a must join. There goes $3,100. But, so there's no way that this particular job is going to match what has been flowing out for the last. It's been 3 years since I booked a major film or television role. I'm so grateful, not for the booking. That's the cherry. I'm grateful for the people that I'm surrounded with on a day-to-day and week-to-week and month-to-month basis. Like, that's the only way I think I could stick it out, stay with it.
Well, a couple things. You sourced us, so that's all you. And secondly, we all knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. So congratulations. Can't think of a more deserving person who has put in the work, and I can't wait to hear about it. I do want to briefly talk about the must join thing, because it ain't cheap to join the union these days. $3,100, like you said. But you did mention that you're applying for a loan, and I was unaware that the union offered loans. This might be something kind of useful for some of our listeners who might be in a similar situation.
Yeah, well, the union doesn't offer loans. It's actually through the credit. There's a couple of credit unions that they work with.
Gotcha.
That have personal loans specifically designed for the initiation payment that have, low interest rates, because essentially there's proof that you are using the loan for that purpose, because SAG sends them, a document saying, he is joining and he owes this much money or whatever. And then in most cases, when the loan is funded, because one of their branches is inside of the union headquarters here in Los Angeles, they will actually get up from their desk and hand walk the money over to the SAG-AFTRA membership people. So it's through them. If that doesn't work out, I'm waiting to hear, what the decision is on that. If that doesn't work out, SAG-AFTRA does have a payment plan that is a 6-month payment plan, but you do get to pay the first 30% of that up front. So it's like $1,025 or something like that on the first month, and then the remaining $2,000 you pay off over the next 5 months. So it probably comes out to around $400 ish a month for 5 months.
Okay,
and that's real money. That's no joke. Now they do accept credit card for payment. So, we've joked about the people who we've had on the show who have made their credit card movie, their credit card feature film.
Yeah.
So, maybe this is like what we as actors get to spend our credit card on is stuff like this that's sort of unexpected.
You may be surprised. I mean, this job may just pay for that entire initiation fee.
I know already. I forgot. Honestly, I didn't even think about residuals. I know for a fact that the initial payment, it could cover those initiation dues.
Yeah. Well, you're going to work multiple days, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah. At least
okay.
4.
Yeah. Then it's all gravy.
But there's the unexpected nature of it, right? Like I could have joined earlier. Yes, absolutely. Thinking ahead, but who wants to throw $3,000 into something that they don't know if they're going to use right away?
Yeah.
Is that whole question, whatever. But I could have been ready for this, absolutely. But it's the unexpected nature of like, oh, geez, here we go.
I love it. There's always a new level, man. That's kind of the fun thing. It's like these little surprises, these little Easter eggs that life has for us sometimes. It's, I think there's a couple ways to view it. You could view it as like oh shit, another thing on my plate. Or you could view it as like a woo, here we go. I just graduated to the next boss.
Yes, I'm so excited. I am so stoked because you're right. We were talking about it before we started recording. Every problem, quote unquote, that I have for this issue, every problem that comes up is like, yes, give me the problem. Every single one. Like, here's another obstacle. Yeah, cool, awesome. I wouldn't have this obstacle if it wasn't for the fact that I booked it in the first place. Bring it on.
Awesome, brother. Well, again, congratulations. When do you shoot?
I start on Friday.
Wow. So quickly. Sweet.
Yeah, well, it's the world of television, man. It's so fast. It's so crazy. Audition and callback were on the same day. I got a call from my manager on my way home to say that they had pinned me, and the next day I had booked it. And I'm going to wardrobe tomorrow morning. I have the read through tomorrow afternoon, and then I start shooting the day after that. From initial audition to being on set will be like a Monday to a Friday.
Like 96 hours, basically.
Right, yeah. Wait, what's happening?
Oh, that's so cool, man. Well, can't wait to hear all about it, man. Quick shout out to VO2GoGo.com, the award-winning voiceover training system that you heard me talk about earlier in this episode. They're also the winner of Backstage's Reader's Choice Award for Best Voiceover Training 4 years in a row, and that ain't for nothing. You can visit vo2gogo.com/start to get access to a free Getting Started in VoiceOver online class. You can take it right now. It's 10 modules. It'll take you right from knowing nothing to knowing exactly what to do to get started in VoiceOver. And you can add that to your acting portfolio and your income. So that's vo2gogo.com/start. And without further ado, I think it's time for part 1 of my chat with Chin Han. Yeah? Anything else you wanted to squeeze in?
Let's do it.
All right, so here it is, guys. Part 1 with Chin Han. It's such a cool freaking journey, and you'll hear me. It's kind of funny. Chin Han swam competitively in his younger years, and so you'll hear him mention swimming a couple times, and you'll hear me kind of get excited about it. But it's not about me. It's about this guy. So enjoy part 1, and we'll catch you on the other side. everybody. This is Trev, and I'm really excited to be sitting across from an actor that you've probably seen quite a bit, but haven't officially met until now. His name is Chin Han, and he's been in a lot of different stuff. You've been in the most recent Independence Day film, The Dark Knight, directed by Christopher Nolan. You had a great sort of run on the TV show Fringe. You were in Contagion with Matt Damon and all those guys. So really excited to hear about your journey, especially because you started in Singapore and made the transition over here to LA. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, hi. You're welcome. Trevor, it's a pleasure to be here and to be talking to all your listeners. The journey began a long time ago. I mean, it was more than 20 years ago when I started out in the theater in Singapore. Awesome. And it was a time when, the theater scene was very vibrant and was growing and was developing. There was less of a film and television scene, especially for English language speaking actors at that time. So by default, I fell into the theater and fell in love with doing the classics. I started out doing Shakespeare and Moliere, and it was just having a whole new world open up to me.
I actually want to ask you a more foundational question just to start. What drew you to theater? Like, why are you an actor and not in real estate or something like that?
Well, the thing is, as a child, I was very fond of the movies. I think that was my church in a way, If you asked my parents what I would ask for my birthday present, let's say from the age of 6 onwards, it was almost invariably going to the movies. It was always going to something, seeing The Empire Strikes Back or The Godfather, and it was always that way. And rumor has it that when my mother was carrying me, she was also watching a lot of movies and a big fan of it. So
I think some of that kind of came through the womb there.
Yeah, it's like baby Einstein, right? And then all that Mozart,
right?
So I loved it. I mean, it was just terrific. I mean, I just loved the stories that were being told, and when it came to an age where I was starting to write stuff and I was starting to write fiction and stuff, I wanted to be a storyteller, in any kind of way. You can be a storyteller as a director, you can be a storyteller as a producer, or even a soundtrack composer, but somehow acting was something that just came and afforded itself opportunities to me, and I took them.
Very cool. What was the transition going from like, oh, this is something I really enjoy doing in theater, to like, I'm going to go all in and make a career out of this?
Well, it was interesting because I held off for the longest time. I came from a school where, which produces a lot of doctors and lawyers and members of parliament. It was a good school. And so I held off on it for a long time and, did all the things that, someone from that school would be doing. I was part of the swim team, in studying the sciences, and it came in the year 1987, I think, and there was a Singapore Youth Festival going on, and the junior college that I was in decided to put on a play. And I auditioned for it, and I got it, and I did it. So that was a lot of fun, and from there on it was like 0 to 100 really, because the next thing I did was a professional play, and then there was a bigger one, and it was so quick, and then suddenly I'm thrust into the world of professional theater, even while I was in school.
Wow. And this is all in Singapore?
This is all in Singapore.
Wow.
So after junior college, I went to university. I was majoring in economics and linguistics, but while I was doing that, I was also doing professional plays, which means that my time, there just wasn't enough time in the day for me, because you're going to tutorials, you're going to lectures, and then you're going to rehearsals. And then you're sneaking off, sometimes from lectures and tutorials to do these rehearsals. And you'll be rehearsing till like 11 because you're working with people who do this for a living, while I was still studying. And I think things came to a head one day. I think this was just before I graduated, when I was sitting in the cafeteria of the university, and I almost like fell asleep in my breakfast. And I was like, "Wow, this is just
too much.
This is too much," And I couldn't wait to graduate so that I could pursue it full time, and I did, and I did.
Okay. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, I had a similar experience when I was in college. I was swimming and doing all like that, but I had my day was planned from like 5:30 a.m. all the way through till 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Theater is one of those tricky things where you kind of have to be a night person. It's like one of those industries that is almost exclusively at night.
Yeah. It was very heady times, because I was working in a theater company where they had a director who was a bit of an enfant terrible, right? I mean, he had a vision, and he was, he did a lot of physical theater and with us, so that meant something that was very physically grueling. I mean, it was Grotowskian, and it was all kinds of improv, and he would let rehearsals run on till like 2 a.m. even, if he didn't see something that he wanted.
Wow. So no strict union rules at that time.
No. I mean, it was very. It was also very communal in that way, and because nobody was complaining, you're not going to be the first one to complain.
Right. Were there any specific mentors or teachers or books or anything that you really depended on or leaned on during that time?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of on-the-job training. I think that was part of the beauty of my experience, I think, so a lot is at stake. I think when you're in acting school, when you're in drama college or any of these places, the training is rigorous and comprehensive, but when you're doing it on the job, the stakes are very high. You can get fired. You're not going to just get critiqued. You're gonna get fired, and so you're in there, and you're doing your best, really.
Okay, so it was really school hard knocks.
Yeah. So,
wow. Okay, cool. So how long were you doing professional theater in Singapore before you started to transition into being on camera and working professionally in that realm?
It took a couple of years. I was in theater for a good. I mean, like what 80. My first play was in '89, and then I got offered my first TV series in 1995. So that was about 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was that like? Did you slowly sort of work your way up doing background roles, or was it like someone came to one of your shows and said, "You're my guy"? Like, how did that?
Again, it went from 0 to 100. I mean, that seems to be the recurring theme of my life. So I was doing theater, and they were casting for a commercial for Citibank, now called something else, and it was a nationwide thing, and I got it, and it was very, it was very different and groundbreaking for its time, because it was, it was just a camera on me, and I was just talking, and then suddenly I'm on this campaign that's on buses and in newspaper inserts and everything, and from there, I think the TV station, when they had decided that they wanted to have a drama unit that produced English language TV shows, they came to me, and then I was offered the lead in the TV series. So I mean, it was like airdropped into the
that's awesome,
into ground zero. So,
did you ever have to put your economics and linguistics degree to work to pay the bills, or
I've never earned a cent outside of the business.
Wow.
I mean, either it was at one point in time I was a guest lecturer at some fine arts institution, but that was later, and either as a director or a producer or an actor. No, but I haven't earned a cent outside of
Wow. So you've been able to subsist on acting income your entire life?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So what was the transition like going from having success in Singapore to having success in Los Angeles or Hollywood?
Well, it's very, it's very surreal. I mean, at the end of the day, you may say that the craft is the same. I mean, whether you're doing a play for 100, 100 people in a theater in Singapore or Wisconsin,
right.
or whether you're doing a play on Broadway, ideally you would be doing the same thing, right? I mean,
technique-wise, you mean? Yeah.
Technique-wise, you'll be applying all the same tools, and you try to be as authentic as possible, and be part of a collective vision. So the work is the basics are the same. But obviously, when you come to Hollywood, someone once told me when I was cast in The Dark Knight, someone once told me, he said to me, he says, you are now in the Super Bowl of acting.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
And so that was kind of interesting for me because I didn't grasp the significance of that at that time. Christopher Nolan was someone I wanted to work with. I loved his movies, and it just felt like an incredible opportunity to be part of, again, a canon, of movies dating back to, the TV shows and the comic books and of Batman. So the difference being that, the platform is a much bigger platform. Your product is, your work is seen by millions and millions and millions of people. Not to mention that working in Hollywood is just incredible. I mean, I think that when you're on a movie like The Dark Knight, or Contagion, or working with Gus Van Sant even on a smaller movie like Restless, the amount of artistry at every level is so impressive. It's not to say that there's no talent in other countries. I mean, there's talent everywhere, but the ability to draw the best in every field. For example, I mean, like The Dark Knight, the music, the soundtracks composed by James Newton Howard and Hans Zimmer. I mean, arguably the best people in the business. When I shot Restless with Gus Van Sant, it was shot by Harris Savides, the late and great Harris Savides, who's done a lot of work for David Fincher and is such an artist. I mean, when I watch him work or light a scene, it's like painting. He's painting with light, obviously. With Steven Soderbergh, he works with this amazing editor, Stephen Mirioni, who edited Traffic, and you can remember how amazing that was. With Dark Knight, again, the DP, Wally Pfister. So, at every level, editing, music, cinematography, costume design, everyone is firing on all cylinders. I mean, everyone is just on top of their game, and it's just very exhilarating to be working like that. I
can imagine that there may have been moments where you may have looked around and said, "Oh my God, when are they going to figure out?" Like a lot of actors say this. When are they going to figure out I'm a fraud? Like, I don't belong here. These people, they're professionals. Like, we've heard that a lot. Has that ever been a thing for you? Have you ever had that sort of self-doubt? And
always. I mean, you're constantly playing that game with yourself, right? I mean, whether you're good enough, whether you deserve to be here, whether whether you're going to be the weak link in this cast. I mean, for example, I remember going to set on the first, going to set for The Dark Knight, and my first day of shooting was in that prison scene, and I'm doing a scene with Gary Oldman, Aaron Eckhart, Christopher Nolan directing, and Heath Ledger was somewhere on set as well at that time, and I'm looking across the room to Gary, and Gary is looking back at me, and I'm like, what's he thinking? What's he thinking? Is he thinking I suck?
Right. Or who hired this guy? Or is he going like, wow, where did they get this guy?
Oh, wow, yeah. Where did he get, where did Chris get this guy? He's amazing. But it's a constant dance, right? I mean, it's a constant dance of insecurity and at times on good days confidence. I mean, where you feel like, yeah, I got this. I've got this. But it doesn't. It never goes away. I mean,
right.
but you get used to it and you accept it, after a while, and you accept it as part of the process.
Part of the process. I love that. I was going to ask if you have any, I don't know, rituals or mantras to when you when you go to that place in your head and you're like, man, I just don't deserve to be here. How do you pull yourself out? But hearing that you just say, yeah, you just accept it as part of the process. You feel the feelings and you get up and you do your work. Yeah. Would you say that's pretty much how you approach it?
And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, you just got to suck it up and do it.
Okay.
It's very much like, because I used to do sports, right? I was a competitive swimmer back in the day. And it's actually very similar, it's very similar. Acting is very similar to high performance sports. I mean, you're there, whether you're sprinting or not. I mean, whether it's a sprint or a medium distance or, a long distance event, or even springboard diving or, rhythmic gymnastics. It is for that period of time, you just have to be the best version you can be. I mean, I hate to sound like an army ad, but you're trying to be the best version that you can be, in that from action to cut, right? For swimming is when you hear the starter pistol go off until you touch the wall, right? And so the getting in that zone and then going for it,
Yeah. It's interesting because I swam competitively as well, and the times that I swam my worst races were when I was trying really hard to psych myself up. I remember one meet, I was at the national meet my sophomore year of college, and I had written on my hand, "I am fast." And I would just look at it. I was so insecure about my ability to perform that I had to keep looking at, and I swam like an awful race. I changed things up at the last minute that I'd never done, and my best races were when I just trusted that I had done the work and I just let it go and I got in and I swam. And you just remove your head from the game almost. And with acting, I think it's like you said, I think it's the same thing. You just trust that you've done the work and you kind of consciously forget everything and just be in the moment and know that you're going to be able to stand on the foundation of the work you've put in.
Yeah, I mean, it's the muscle memory, right? In a way. No, totally. I remember one competition where I was, it was the finals and we were the top two seeds, in the relay team. And I remember, doing all that stuff, that huffing and puffing and, getting ready and getting psyched and, and then, I jumped off when I took off, when another swimmer came in, when I took off, somehow I was so psyched that I arched my back so much that when I entered the water, it was almost like a pike, and I went in so deep and just couldn't come out, and lost precious time, and then we lost that race. We came in second, but I will always remember that because that was just very that was just that haunted me for ages. But I mean, coming back to acting, that's the tightness doesn't serve you. It just doesn't. There's an intention and there's a focus, but tightness just doesn't really serve anyone.
We've heard on the show before, one of our guests said something we'll never forget. He said, "Wear life like a loose garment." And I love that. And I think that applies a lot to what you're speaking into right now, which is just sort of like you just kind of you play in it, and you just trust that you just trust that presence will be enough.
Yeah.
And then within that presence, all the self-doubt conversations and whatnot just kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's important to know, because sometimes when you go to acting school, I've attended a few, just to see what's being taught, And I think that for a lot of scene study classes, like for example in Los Angeles, you go to class and the teacher is, is teaching or selling the concept of making hot choices all the time, hot choices, And sometimes a hot choice is not what is required, sometimes another choice is required. Getting a job is very different from doing the job. I think the hot choice may help, in terms of creating an impression in a casting director or making your read memorable. But very often when you're doing the job, that's not what's required. What's required is a sense of being. Doing the character work, and then being a real person.
Yeah.
Not being a scene stealing person, not being a scenery chewing person, but a person. And sometimes that requires very, very non-flashy choices.
So when you say hot choices, you mean choices that raise the stakes or that feel very real in your life right now, like going to those deep emotional cues.
Yeah, or something memorable, do something crazy, just before you kiss the person, slap him, or something like that,
Right.
do something crazy. And I understand where that's coming from, I understand that, as an actor, go wherever you need to go, push the limits, surprise yourself. But, there are other considerations when you're actually on a film set and you're actually working.
Yeah. Has your family been pretty supportive of this journey?
Yeah. They have been. So, they've always been. I call them my hippie family, because in Asia, it's you don't get this very often. There's always a strong emphasis on being of certain professions, And when I decided to do this, there was never any doubt. There was always like, oh, great. And this was when I was younger as well. They were like, do you need a ride to the audition?
Wow.
Oh, do you need
That's
to
cool.
do this or that? And they have never missed a single show of mine. They have never missed a single show.
Wow.
Not a play. None of my TV shows, episodes of my TV shows or movies or.
Oh, that's so cool.
So they've been supportive that way. It's great. I don't see them as much as I like to, but
They're all still back in Singapore?
well, they're in various places.
Okay.
My brother has a place in London, and my family, the rest of my family are in Singapore. So but even last week when Independence Day Resurgence premiered, it was so cute. They had texted me a photo of themselves at the cinema in Singapore about to enter the theater while I was about to do my own premiere.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was very sweet of them.
Oh man, such a cool journey. I'm so excited to hear this, to hear the second part. I read through the notes and I'm just, it's so amazing. I feel like we've been gifted with so much inspiration lately and talk about an inspiring, story.
Yeah. What he says about tightness and how tightness doesn't always, it doesn't serve you, of course, and of course the parallels to athletics, but also what he says about hot choices and how there's all these acting teachers out there that, that encourage you to make the hot choice, the bold choice. I think what he said was like, slap the person before you kiss them, but he says that, I just love that he says, those are great, but don't do it just to be fanatical. Don't do it to be memorable, because that's not always the right choice. Sometimes the right choice is to sit there and be silent. Sometimes the right choice is to be completely impassive. Sometimes the right choice is to walk away. So I'm so happy that he pointed that out, and it comes from somebody who obviously has the credentials to make a statement like that about the craft. And I think we sometimes lose that. We're constantly coached high stakes, bold choices, big choices. Yeah, but let's not lose sight of the fact that we're portraying, human beings operating in the real world, and oftentimes high stakes can mean, defeat, I guess, for lack of a better term sometimes. However you want to interpret it, but it doesn't always mean slapping the person before you kiss them, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about picks of the week. What is Polymail? This is your pick of the week.
So I got to be honest, I completely stole this from Gadali. Yeah, so there was I think I made this other app, my pick of the week a ways back. It was called Mailbox. And it was like this really awesome app for email on your phone. And I don't know what happened, but they went down in flames. Like it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, they got bought by Dropbox, and then they basically decided that too many resources, they were being spread too thin. And so they closed it down to focus on other stuff.
Yeah, and they had there was too many competitors and all this stuff. So
I was so sad because I loved Mailbox.
So you're going to love Polymail because it's everything that Mailbox was and more. It is like what Mailbox could have been if it was if it continued to be in development and had really, intelligent designers and engineers continuing to work on it. So, unfortunately, and I know we have a lot of Android and Windows users that listen to us. I'm really sorry. It's not my fault. I didn't design the app, but I do use Apple devices, and it's only on Mac and iOS. So, mea culpa, but anyway, there it is. Polymail.io is the website. You can obviously find it in the various app stores.
Oh, sweet. I've been using Google Inbox, and yeah, I like it. It does the trick, but it's no Mailbox. So
yeah, well, and Polymail has a lot of the really cool features that are sort of plug-in type features for Gmail, like reminders, like read later reminders and Boomerang, and like all those plugins that you have for Gmail to make Gmail like super powerful are all built into the app.
All right, can't wait to check that out.
Your pick of the week, my friend.
Eating Animals it's a book called Eating Animals by a guy named Jonathan Safran Foer. And it's a powerful book it's in the vein of like Omnivore's Dilemma and some of Michael Pollan's work. Essentially, Jonathan Safran Foer, he's a writer, he's a novelist, and, had a baby boy with his wife, and started to really think about what he was feeding and teaching his kid, his baby boy, about the world, he was encouraging his kid to put in his body. And so he sort of initiated this self-investigation into food, specifically animal agriculture. And it's a really fascinating deep dive. The first half of the book, he kind of goes back and forth between like animal agriculture is evil and horrible and abusive, and it's rape, it's murder, and it's destroying the planet. And like, sorry, this is just what happens when you have a species at the top of the food chain. Like, he goes back and forth, and I found myself sort of swaying with him. And then in the second half of the book, he just rips the Band-Aid off, and he goes undercover with like investigators to CAFOs, concentrated animal factory feeding operations. And, he goes to slaughterhouses and stuff. He goes to small community run slaughterhouses and the big ones. And he just sort of, he interviews the people, and some people are really remorseful about working there, and some people could not give two shits. And it's a really interesting deep dive into the processes that we go through as human beings, both consciously and unconsciously, to justify our diets. And he doesn't, evangelize vegans and vegetarians by any means. And he doesn't demonize meat eaters. He just lays it out. Like, this is what's happening. These are the facts. This is where 99% of your meat comes from. This is what, we're supporting or we're not supporting. This is what the government, this is how the government plays a role in it. And this is how the money plays out. And this is what, who's in bed with who else when it comes to, subsidizing these things. And absolutely fascinating. I read the book in 3-4 days. Some of it was very difficult to read, and I think that's why everybody should read it. I have a lot of friends who, I get worked up about this vegan stuff. I feel very strongly about animal rights. And I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said something about I saw this video on Mercy for Animals website, and he said, "Is it going to be something I want to hear?" And I was like, maybe it should be, you know?
Probably not, but
but that's the thing. It's like I no longer understand the complete like unwillingness to hear the truth in order to justify, you know, a desirable behavior. I mean, I get it sort of psychologically, but I can't relate to it anymore. It's so interesting to me, and this is all tied into my climate change stuff. You know, I think I've talked about this before. The more I think about it, climate change, the more I realize it's not really a problem about us just pumping massive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and treating the land like it was, you know, nothing, and just, you know, extractivism, I think is the term for it. Just basically seeing the world through a lens of what can I get from this, rather than how can I live in, you know, symbiosis with this. Right. And it all comes down to the food on our plate, man. The problem is not the result. The result is the warming atmosphere. The result is the deforestation, the acidifying oceans. That's the result. The problem is our relationship to other life forms in the natural world, and by extension to ourselves, both interpersonally and personally. And I think that starts with knowing what goes into the food that we put into our body, because that's arguably the most intimate thing any of us does throughout the day, is put something in our mouth, chew it, and swallow it. It's like,
it's really weird when you put it that way, actually.
When you but like, shouldn't we know as much as possible about this, and shouldn't we agree on every level with the you know, all of that?
The phenomenon you're referring to is not just limited to food, and it's not just limited to climate change. It's pretty much everything, right? It's politics. It's relationships with people who are not like you, right? There's an unwillingness to learn more about, you know, Islam. I mean, pick it, right? Pick the subject matter. And as long as you have the other, you know, it's something about our evolution. It's built in, man. It's hardwired. There's something about human beings and our survival mechanism that includes ignorance is bliss.
You know, we don't have time for this, but I would play devil's advocate and argue against that. I would argue that what we have now is actually a learned culturally conditioned behavior, and that our natural state of being is one of complete cooperation and reciprocity.
Well, I think I was making a distinction between those two things, but I see what you're saying.
Big conversation. We should start a whole nother podcast for this.
We could.
I've thought about it. Awesome. All right. Well, that's all the time we've got for today. We have a great listener pick of the week coming at you next week, as well as some really cool listener questions that are going to kick off a lot of interesting conversation on the podcast around the various things we come up against in this industry. But to summarize these picks of the week, that is Polymail, found online at polymail.io, and Eating Animals, a great book, a must-read book if you're a human being who eats food. A must-read book by a guy named Jonathan Safran-Foer. Links to both of those on our website. And that is it for episode 245. Today's episode of Inside Acting was produced and co-hosted by me, Trevor Algott, and AJ Meyer. Jen Levin is our production coordinator. Gadali Gubrek is our marketing and web director. Deborah Smith is our community manager. Timothy Patrick Waterman is our director of public relations. Some guy named Trevor Algott edited and mixed today's episode and composed our theme and interview music, and Fern Lim designed our logo.
I would really love to meet that guy someday.
He's like a radical vegan, man. You don't want to meet him.
Oh, good. Well, then I'll just avoid that. You can sign up for a weekly email dispatch and listen to all of our episodes at our website, insideacting.net. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, and soon CBS. See what I did there? And if you do nothing else, a favorable review on iTunes goes a long, long way. It helps other people discover the show.
Yeah, special thanks to our sponsors, Rehearsal Pro and VO2GoGo.com, and a special thanks to you, our listeners. That's you guys listening. If you love Inside Acting and you want to maximize this life, Freudian slip. You want to maximize its value in your life and career and support its continued production. You can sign up as a member and get cool perks like access to our private member community message board. You can get exclusive invites to exclusive member meetups, fun freebies, special bonus content, and a whole lot more. All that for just $7 a month, plus the satisfaction of knowing that you're making this thing happen every week. Just visit InsideActing.net and click on the membership tab to get started. Or, if you'd like, you can also just make a one-time, no-strings-attached, tax-deductible donation. Just visit InsideActing.net/donate to do that.
Awesome! That is it for episode 245 of Inside Acting. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, presence is enough.